So in sports handicapping, there is a phrase that matters more than any individual pick. The phrase is this: trust the process, but verify the result. And when you look at Sunday's win by the Thunder over Philadelphia, it was one of those rare games where the process was sound, the read was sharp, and the result still managed to teach us something new. So let's start there with this segment of the breakdown, because understanding why the Thunder dismantled Philadelphia is the key to understanding, I think, what's coming next on Monday night against Atlanta. So let's look what we got right on Sunday and why that matters. The biggest win wasn't the final score. It was the market read here. We said that Joel Embiid's availability would dictate everything. And once Embiid was officially ruled out, the line exploded from the Thunder. We had them at -7.5 when we recorded, to a closing number that was north of -17. That's massive closing line value for anyone who bought in early, and it validates the most important skill in breaking down games, which is anticipating movement, not just outcome. We also nailed the situational spot. Oklahoma City wasn't just coming off losses to the San Antonio Spurs. They were coming off a bruised identity. We expected a defensive response, and we got one. 23 forced turnovers, 21 points off those turnovers. Philadelphia shot just 30% in the second half and looked completely overwhelmed by Oklahoma City's pace and physicality. And then there was Chet Holmgren. We identified a Holmgren versus Drummond matchup as the fulcrum of this game, and it played out exactly that way. Chet wasn't just good, he was dominant. 29 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks. He controlled the paint, he punished mismatches in space, and he turned the absence of Embiid into a structural collapse for Philadelphia. That's not luck, that's matchup recognition. But we did miss a few things, and let's talk about that real quick and why that's useful, because the misses matter as well. We leaned over in this total, and while the game technically cleared, it was a sweatshop, right? It was closer than what we expected. Why? Because Oklahoma City's defense didn't just disrupt Philly, it erased them in the fourth quarter. Tyrese Maxey, who torched Oklahoma City early, was held to just 5 second-half points after defensive adjustments. That's something that we didn't fully anticipate, and it speaks to this team's ability to adapt mid-game. We also underestimated Oklahoma City's ceiling without a true rim protector. On the floor, 72 paint points for Oklahoma City. 72. That lesson was loud and clear. So what does all this tell us? It tells us Oklahoma City isn't just winning games, they're learning how to punish structural weaknesses. And that brings us directly into Monday night, tonight's matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, and why this is a little bit of a different kind of test. On paper, it looks like a letdown spot. Big emotional win on Sunday, national spotlight, short turnaround, a heavy favorite once again. In most cases, that's where you would fade the home team. But Oklahoma City under Mark Daigneault is not most teams. This matchup comes down to one central tension, I believe. Atlanta wants to run. Oklahoma City wants to force mistakes. And the problem for Atlanta is that they don't have the personnel right now to survive that exchange. There's an attrition factor here, and that changes everything in the way you approach this game. Atlanta's walking into the Paycom Center with a front court that's literally held together by duct tape. Kristaps Porzingis is out. Nefeli Dante is done for the season. Jalen Johnson, their most versatile forward, is in best transition defender. He's out. That leaves Onyeka Okongwu as the lone reliable big against a Thunder team that just put up 72 paint points, really without even trying to slow down. So this isn't a matchup problem. We're looking at a structural issue for the Hawks. And then there's Trae Young. Trae's listed as questionable with a quad contusion. And even if he plays, he's going to be dealing with Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, and constant ball pressure, all while less than 100%. Oklahoma City doesn't just defend guards, they wear them down. Every possession is a tax. And so this is a high spread, but I also believe it's justified. You got 15.5 point spread in favor of the Thunder. Typically in the NBA, that should always make you uncomfortable. But this one has logic behind it. Atlanta ranks in the bottom third of the league in turnover percentage. Oklahoma City leads the league in points off turnovers. That's not a stylistic clash. That's a direct collision. If Trey forces passes into traffic, if Atlanta tries to speed the game up without clean spacing, Oklahoma City is going to turn those mistakes into immediate offense. Not threes, not layups, dunks, free throws. The most demoralizing points that you can give up on the road. And defensively, Atlanta has no answer for Chet Holmgren. We've already seen this movie earlier in the season. Chet dropped 31 and 12 against this same Hawks team. Without a shot blocker, Holmgren just becomes both a scorer and a gravity well. He pulls defenders into impossible decisions, and then he opens up the corners for shooters like Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins. And that's how Oklahoma City turns good teams into tired teams by halftime. And there's also, I think, a third quarter problem here for Atlanta. And I believe this is the quiet edge in this matchup. That, second half energy. And we saw it against Philadelphia on Sunday. Atlanta's playing its third game in 4 nights. They just lost a heartbreaker to New York. Oklahoma City, meanwhile, just put up a defensive clinic and has had 24 hours to recalibrate, not to recover. So Dagenau's teams are ruthless coming out of halftime. If there's an energy gap, it usually shows up in the first 6 minutes of the third quarter. Against Philly, that stretch buried the game. Against Atlanta, it's likely to do the same thing. So let me tell you what I'm predicting. I think if Trey Young was ruled out, this number could climb towards minus 18 for the Thunder. Even if he plays, the structural issues that the Hawks have, they don't disappear. So this isn't about disrespecting Atlanta. It's about recognizing that Oklahoma City is currently operating like a team with championship habits. They punish mistakes, they sustain pressure, and they finish games without drama. I like Oklahoma City in this game, and I like the Thunder to cover. I'm going to predict Oklahoma City around 125 to 108, which means we're leaning towards the under on the point total of 237.5, because I think Atlanta may struggle to reach 105 points if the turnovers pile up and the legs fade like we anticipate. From a player prop standpoint, you got to keep an eye on Jalen Williams. What we called Chet Holmgren on Sunday, we're going Jalen Williams today. With defenses over committing to Shea, and they will, Williams becomes the release valve. He's due for a big night, a 20-plus point night in the matchup where Atlanta's perimeter rotations are just already stretched thin. So here's my final thought on tonight's game. Sunday proved the Thunder were elite when the situation demands it. Monday will test whether they can be relentless. The great teams, they don't relax after validation. They stack it. And right now, Oklahoma City looks like a team that understands exactly what it's building towards. If they bring the same defensive intensity, the same discipline, the same urgency that they showed against Philadelphia, Atlanta's not just walking into a tough matchup. They're walking into a big problem. And that's how contenders announce themselves. Not with one big win, but with the ones that follow that big win. Look for a statement again on Monday night in Oklahoma City.